There we go.
I was just gonna let YouTube do the recording for us, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Do you have all of this written down somewhere?
I think so, yeah.
Bullet points and nothing.
When we get the
Long
new piece of
winded.
equipment, he'll type it all out and he'll save it as a file
Okay.
on that device. Just open it up.
We're live.
Follow.
So, folks who are joining us on, online, this is the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association, public section for our monthly board meeting for June 12th, 2023. My name is James DeRofi. I'm the board chair.
I'm Ross Tinty, NLA representative.
Erin Johnson, land use chair.
Brian Kennedy, treasurer.
Jen Sawyer, community outreach.
So we've got a relatively short agenda for today. The fiscal year for the neighborhood associations works July to June. So this is our last month of the year. And then for most city committees take the month of July off. We won't, but we are not the standard city committee. We do have a few guests in the background. If anybody would like to say anything or talk to the public, you're welcome to.
Sorry, in a bad spot here behind the back there. Jim Goodman.
Jim, do you have anything any public comments you'd like to make or?
No, I'm here with all ears.
Okay, if anybody has any questions either here or on online, just put your hand up or just interrupt us in case we don't notice that fast enough. So that being said, Brian, would you like to start, or actually not Brian, Karen, would you like to start with, there any land use notifications that we have gotten?
I have two things to talk about.
Okay,
No?
sure, we'll go
Okay.
with you now.
First of all, one that's happening in the Old Farm District. They put out a notice about the Stevens Branch Library. The public comments are due by June 20. I urge you, we posted it on our site, to go on and take a look at it. It proposes one of the commercial use lots on the Stevens Ranch project. You look at the materials, virtually all steel and aluminum. They're going to use stone in the lower exterior, weather steel, dark bronze mullions, perforated steel cladding. It looks like some modern thing from New York. It's just been transplanted to Central Oregon. In other words, I think it's really ugly. And I urge people, to take a look at it and see what they think about the proposed plan. Because you can comment until June 20. By then the comments will not be accepted after that. Second is something that people in the Old Farm District will probably wonder about. And that is, as you're driving across Speed Market Road on 15, you're now in the Larkspur District. That large area, they call it Wildflower Master Plan, has, I think, they filed the master plan in 2015. They have two areas of special interest, only 33 acres, about 22 acres are formally buildable. They've had a long haul trying to get people to be interested in it. They finally have a builder, I think Greenwood Homes. They're going to start building next year. They're going to put in about 596 units. They're going to be cottages, townhomes, and then multi-unit apartments. They were before the city council last month to get a change in the master plan so that the original 6 acres of commercial space has been reduced to about 1.4 acres, and of that, about 1 acre is actually buildable. So the commercial area will be significantly reduced, but they're planning a commercial area with 2 stories. There are a variety of things that they could do. Ideally 12 shops. They have trails that they're planned. There was a big issue in the city council they talked about for half an hour, and that is automobiles, which of course Southeast Bend is interested in because they're finding the gas station. And the problem is you have auto-centric stores, cars are turning in, pedestrians are on the sidewalk and the bike path, and so you have a conflict there. The city council debated whether to allow auto-centric uses at all, like drive-throughs or anything of that nature. And they finally decided to allow any sort of drive-through food service. In other words, at this point, if the developer wanted to put in a Starbucks under the new code, they'd be allowed to do it. I think it's well worth looking at. It's quite a plan. Most of it's really well done.
And that's
Yeah.
this plot of land,
There
just,
you go.
just southeast
Yeah.
of the new roundabout at Wilson and 15.
And the commercial area is going to be in the northwest corner, right by the roundabout. And then the rest is going to be, housing. When you look at the map, if you go on there and look at the project site, the ASIs, areas of special interest, take up like 9 acres of this site, which is why they had a hard time finding anyone to buy it. And what they're proposing really is very attractive. I think it's a concern that they might allow a Starbucks there, but that's for the future. But it's going to add a lot of hopefully medium price, market rate housing rentals, but it's going to be a lot of them. And it looks very well planned.
Is it gonna front onto 15? Is that the access, or are they gonna do it in the
Uh,
communities?
Looking at the plans that they have, there's a parking lot. You pull in from the, I think right before the roundabout, you pull into the parking lot of the little commercial area. But I'm not quite sure what they're gonna do with the parking. It's so steep there that it'll look like one floor from 15th. You turn east and go down, and they're gonna have a second story underneath. That's how steep it is. So just as it'll be a 2-story commercial building for hopefully small shops, pizza places, brewery.
The lot is heavily elevation changes with the
Huge-
big
huge
rock
change.
outcroppings.
Huge elevation.
Is that what a
changes.
lot of the ASIs are, those
Yeah.
rock outcroppings? And I don't know if there's caves in there. I don't think so.
No, there's just rock
Okay.
outcroppings.
ASI is mostly to the southern end of it, right? Aren't the ASIs down there in that?
Yeah, but there are
South,
two of
west
them. One's kind of to the south and the other's a little to the north. They take up a lot, that lot.
Yeah, you can sort of see them on that map there.
Mhm.
They're very pronounced.
Yes. And they're large. The developer, seems to think that they can make money on the project. And it looks very well planned.
And you can see the surrounding neighborhoods where their roads are going to connect in. So
Mhm. And they're gonna have a connection to Larkspur Trail. And I think with work with Parks and Rec on that.
so that was the 2 projects
That's
that you
my
had
2
mentioned.
projects. Yeah, I think this is well worth looking at.
Yes, that is that is come and gone is from developers' eyes for years now. So it's good to see it's actually going someplace. That is it for
That's for land.
okay.
Yep.
Jennifer, was there a NART meeting last month?
I don't believe there was, I was out of town for it. But I think like every NA is really struggling with getting board members together and getting them to stay on boards. I think everybody's experiencing a lot of burnout right now. So it's hard to get folks together with NART at the moment, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to connect at the end of this month.
That being said, let's segue really quickly into the NLA with you, Ross. And before we do that, I briefly mentioned that the city has a few citizens committees, and most of them go inactive in the month of July. Most of the citizens committees have openings at this point. BDAB, which is the Bend Economic Development Advisory Board, I believe half their committee has served, I think, 5 or 6 years at this point. So they're going to be looking at replacing that. That's a very important committee in town based essentially around local businesses. The NLA is going to be going inactive. Ross can fill us in more on that. And I believe the budget committee has some openings. I think that is it at this point, but we could double check on the website. We do have links. But at this point, if anybody wants to be active with what's going on in city planning, government, even social things, there are plenty of opportunities to do it if somebody wants to take 4 to 5 hours out of their month. and do that. Ross is our current NLA representative, and there's sort of a shakeup.
Yeah, so tomorrow is our, the last meeting, for the NLA. It's being put on hold at this point. We don't have a date when we'll start meeting again, if at all, but that is the current plan. Last month we met, and things that were talked about was the National Night Out, which I think you're going to speak to in a moment, James, but Jessica is the police liaison. She was reaching out to the NLA to help try to get more involvement. They are looking for a very, very broad involvement for the National Night Out that, again, James will speak to in a few minutes. Let's see what else. Yeah, it sounds like it's being moved. As of May 9th, it was set for Alpenville Park, but apparently there's some moving around.
Bend High.
It's at Bend High now, thanks. The Neighborhood Street Safety Program, Robin and Christian are on it. They are looking for project ideas similar to what was done from 2019 to 2024, so the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. Things along those lines. Things that we've done to date are like speed limit changes. I worked with getting radar signs out, putting crosswalks and signs around crosswalks, things along those lines. So if anybody has ideas or for projects that to help improve the street safety in our neighborhoods, please reach out either to us or directly to the city as well.
We have a one radar sign on 15th.
It's on 15th right now. Yeah.
2 weeks. How long do we have? on that?
So there are 2 different kinds of signs that the city does. What we now have on 15th, which is attached to a speed limit sign, and it shows you your speed.
Yeah.
Those are different than the mobile radar signs, which are available, and they're essentially like a trailer setup that
So
moves
when we
around.
submitted our desires for these previously, was it for one type only or was it for both of those?
So the current ones you see around town, they're very small, and basically it's like just an active radar sign. Those are relatively new, and I believe those are going to be permanent. They're not going to be relocated. The other ones are these smaller signs, and basically are larger, and it's sort of a,
white.
yeah, sort of like, hey, and there was 3 units that they were bouncing around the town only in the summer and spring and early fall months.
Do we know, I mean, I know we submitted, did we ever hear back from city what was selected?
I didn't hear back, but I sent it directly to the project manager for it, and I gave him in order of priority, which is 15th, was voted up the most. Broster House was voted up second, and then Farrell was voted up by third.
And we did have somebody specifically reach out the last week or so and ask about the Broster House sign. So it's in the queue, but as everything is, it's a financial thing. So they move them around town, but we have submitted that. We do know that speeding concerns on 15th and Broster House are top priority for pretty much everybody who lives in the side of town. Anything else, Ross?
Block party trailer, but we something the city is providing is a trailer with to help neighborhoods out with the means to run basically a big old block party. There are some stipulations, some rules with it, and with respect to who you can invite, can't be restrictive. Basically, you have to be able to invite anybody from the neighborhood or city, yeah, so that's available. It's, the contents of that is listed online. And it isn't just for the board of directors for a neighborhood. Others can look into putting something together as well.
And we'll be discussing more on that here in a minute.
And then I think that's all that I got.
Okay. Brian, really quickly, would you mind giving us any thoughts or where we're at with our street cleanup or something we should do moving forward? We had a pause. How do you want to do this?
Well, we had one scheduled in May and we had one positive response. So I have an active list. I think it's around 50 who have indicated that either last year and or this year that they would be interested in being advised of these opportunities. That one didn't work out. It's a Thursday and there were a lot of people with conflicts and I had a few positives, but they said they could only do it on weekend. So now the next question is, Was that an anomaly in May that no one would do it? Last year we did them on Thursdays, and we had a decent turnout. So we went forward with that, it didn't work. So I don't know if that was that particular Thursday or if we need to shift gears and try to see if there's a preference. We started out doing that last year. We polled everyone for their days of choice. Thursday was number one, Saturday was number two. We did mostly Thursdays last year. I think we did one or two Saturdays. So now it's about trying another date and seeing if people will show up for it.
I have a suggestion if the board's interested. Maybe in July, we do social media blitz. Let's just plan, I don't know, $200 to see what happens. Want to help clean up and direct all the traffic to Brian,
So we need to do June.
or June, excuse me, sorry.
We need to do
Well,
something relatively
well,
quickly.
I was gonna try to use next fiscal budget. So if we started July 1st with the blitz.
Well, that's fine. We still need an event in June because as the trash is piling up. out there,
Right.
so, yeah.
But with that, I mean,
I mean, we have sufficient bodies. We have gear for 12.
okay.
So it doesn't really help to have 20 people. If I can get 12. Question?
If you do them on Thursdays, is there a particular Thursday of each month that you do them on? Or?
No, I have to work around my work schedule and I try to find it, we have weather considerations, and sometimes street closures, and construction and things like that. We just try to think of a date that looks like it will work in a street that needs it. It's open to us. We have to get city approval for what we plan to do. So there's a little bit of lead time into it. I generally try to give people a heads up the week before and just get confirms the week of. And hopefully you have enough people showing up the day of to make it effective. Then based on how many people literally show up, is when we kind of play out how aggressive we can be in terms of how much roadway we're going to be able to cover. So I need to look at the schedule and pick a date here in the next 2 weeks to do cleanup. So
Brian,
In June.
yeah,
in June, as I was walking down Reed Market Road, is there a way you can check with the city to see what their schedule is for landscaping? Like right now, Reed Market Road is completely overgrown. So you wouldn't even see a lot of the trash because basically they haven't gone through it.
we go in there.
I understand. So do you want to wait until they go through and clean it all up landscaping wise, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole NA's got trash. So.
I understand that.
Corral's been terrible. Last year was one of the, we had to clean that up 3 times.
Okay,
Obviously 27th is a disaster. Ferguson's a construction zone, so that's off. So Reed Market, we're only responsible for the south side of Reed Market. So that's where I know the push you're talking about already. That always gets a lot of trash in there. So one of the things I want is feedback from citizens about areas that need help, because it comes down to prioritizing what's in great need on that given day, and that's it.
I think that's where we should go with the beginning of July's messaging, literally just start. What's the July's date or calendars?
For the meeting.
No, for the cleanup. Basically, July 1st is a Saturday. So Jen, if you could,
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing that.
well, no, because that's the July 4th
Yeah,
weekend.
right.
So if we can put out the advertising the first 3 or 4 days of July, then we can find out the last 3 or 4 weeks of what will work for Brian.
I wouldn't even want to target mid-July since there's going to be a lot of fireworks garbage around as well.
Yeah, the cleanup would definitely be after. So
Yeah, I'm just trying to, like I said, to get the
are you trying to determine geography? Or
No.
availability?
marketing so we can get people and have people actually agree to show up. Kind of.
Well, I have that list. I mean, I think we've already done that. Did they put out the email, and I did get responses from it, and I mastered that list.
Okay.
And so I have all their contact information. It just was surprising that no one was, literally one person.
So do we need to know the next street?
No, it's never about the street, it's about the date and time.
Okay.
The question that I have that needs to be answered is, was last year's survey no longer relevant? Last year, people wanted Thursday, but,
So then a survey is what you're asking.
well, maybe we're just talking about direction. So I can pick a date and try it again, or I don't really want to go back and resurvey, because that just
Okay.
creates, I think for now, I think the answer is I'm just gonna pick another day in June. We'll see how we do. And if that
Or
doesn't.
did you want to be a part of this?
Well, I would, depending on what date it might be, because, you know, I have other
Sure.
obligations in there.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be glad to help. I just need to know what day.
Yeah,
See if I'm-
it won't be next week, it will probably be the following week. So that is the 22nd, I think.
Mhm.
So that's,
26th for Monday.
no, Thursday, 22nd.
22nd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my mental target date. So if anybody has thoughts, pro or con, I would like to know. too.
School's out if
That's
people
why
are in
they-
town. So,
yeah, that's the idea is, and I can't do it next week because school's in out. but-
so Jen, I'd say, this week, say we're going to be doing a street cleanup on the 22nd.
We usually do morning,
Yeah, usually 9 o'clock.
9 to 10:30.
I mean, we want to do a solid hour, and we usually do, people can come and go as their schedules allow, but we usually do 90 minutes. Sometimes a little bit more if if we're doing a big stretch and we have a lot of people, but.
Okay.
Anybody get worn out.
Anything else on that for the month of June?
No, I don't think so.
So I'm just going to change topics. So there's a few things that we've been asked to participate in. One of them is the National Night Out, which is a police, let's see what the official, yeah, it's just called National Night Out, building community and promoting police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie. So it was originally going to be at Alpenglow. Due to some scheduling conflicts, it has been moved to Bend High. That is Tuesday, August 1st. We have been asked to help contribute to the DJ, which is at least $100. We just need to have a board approval for that. I'm for it.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Okay,
Well,
Okay,
all approved.
so then I will contact the police department about that. They have also asked for other possible donations or volunteers as well. This year is going to be a little smaller because it's going to be their first one they've done. Do we want to try to kick in like another $100 so they can buy food and give away stuff or anything like that? Or is there another figure?
Yeah, or 300. Oh, that's kind of part of this conversation.
Yes.
Because that's this year's budget, right?
So, well, no,
Yeah,
we
is that
could, we
this
could do
year's budget?
some this year's budget, some next year's budget. So we could do the DJ this year's budget and then the rest of the gifts next year's budget.
Oh, yeah, let's just do that. I don't know
Why
if we
don't
need to.
why don't you do your thing and connect with Jen about her thing, and that will inform whether we're gonna do the whole thing or half the thing this year.
Okay, so,
Because you already got an idea of what you're targeting, and Jen already knows the math for
Yeah.
the brochures, so.
so for the public, there's gonna be a pie eating contest, tug of war, scavenger hunt, water balloon toss, a bounce house, face painting, craft station, live music, complimentary food and beverages, and a touch of truck experience. Oh, bed and fire truck. So basically you get to go look at the big equipment that all our tax dollars pay for and you get to play on it and stuff like that. The idea behind this is the police department has really been trying to have more of a positive perception as far as the public is concerned. So that's what this is for. We will help broadcast this. We will help advertise this. The city is going to as well. Anyone with family, definitely go to it. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And that is going to be at Bend High, and we will try to post more about that, and it'll be on more of our marketing.
I mean, I know this is mostly a police city event and they want our help, but I was just thinking about bounce houses. There's some familiarity there. If there is any opportunity for the old farm NA to,
So at this point, it sounds like they're pretty booked on space. I'm sure we could go, there is going to be a tent set up for the neighborhood associations in general. If we wanted to go put in an hour of time or 35 minutes of time to just volunteer, we could do that. I'm sure it would be appreciated. Other than that, the police department's new public outreach is sort of taking the lead role on this, and we're just sort of participating. Some of I don't think they've heard back from all the neighborhood associations. What I would like to do is Ross at the NLA meeting say that we are going to be part of this, just so that the NAs, the other neighborhood associations know that we're going to be contributing to this, even though it's not in our neighborhood association. It's relatively close. Bend High is, as far as I'm concerned, the center of town for most people. It's right on the bus stops. It's safe for the trails. I mean, all kinds of access there. You can park at Juniper Park if need be, as well as the high school. So, so that covers the National Night Out. For the public, we're wrapping up our fiscal year. There are two things that we've been trying to figure out what to do with our budget so that we can plan for next year. We're going to be moving ahead with sort of a different structure next year than we've done in the past. The board has decided we're going to try to have at least 3 public events. One of them is we're going to try to set up for Alpenglow Park using the stage and the public trailer setup that the city has made available to us. We need to schedule that date. We're going to be having our general meeting either the 3rd or 4th week of March, and that will be here at the senior center. And then we have a 3rd location to be determined. So our monthly board meetings are going to be relatively calm, but what we're going to be trying to be doing behind the scenes and needing volunteer help or ideas as for these 3 events. Some of the topics are to be determined because we don't really know. So in March of next year,
We invite that. I mean.
we invite, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
This is
I
public.
mean, yeah, the purpose behind doing more events is to be able to provide a service to the neighborhood about topic or topics that they would like to know more about. And then we bring in speakers
So,
or
yeah, so
debate issues, whatever, but to create a meaningful event. So if people in this meeting have any feedback on now or later about themes or topics that they'd like to see about us putting together, then that would be really helpful.
So we'll start putting that out on social media, but basically these are going to be public. The general meeting will be a general meeting, but the other 2 meetings we're going to try to go for a public forum setup. So if it turns out there's a hot topic that's in debate, we'll try to get some speakers from various sides to publicly debate it. The Old Farm and a few other neighborhood associations last year had something like this at Caldera High. The Caldera High is a possibility for a location. We're going to try to make sure that they're all in the Old Farm area. And we will be keeping everybody appraised of that. So part of that is we're going to be using some of our budget. We gave away a bunch of field guides, I guess is the best term. So we're going to authorize some more purchase of those. Those were very popular. Everybody really liked them. High quality field guides related to sexual organ. How many different kinds are there, Jen?
I currently have 7 pollinators, butterflies, caterpillars, birds, night sky, animal tracks, just to help identify things around this area, wildlife around this area.
Okay, and then we have a general idea of what that's going to cost. And then the other sort of big ticket item is the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association is trying to move away, or not move away, but have it set up so that if this board disappeared tomorrow and another board came in, everything would be ready to go for somebody else. So we've currently bought microphones, cameras, and things that we've already had for a bit now. And the last thing we need is we're going to be buying a notepad or of some kind. We've narrowed it down to a price. Ross will be picking that up in the next week or so to submit that, so that anybody joining the board in the future will be able to constantly have hybrid live streaming events like this. The public seems to like them the most. We have the money. And if we have all of this spent at this point, that means next year it will literally our entire budget is going to be going to outreach. Board's all on.
Mhm. Boards on
Favors all
board.
for it.
Board's on
board.
Board's on board. Anybody have any questions about anything that we've discussed so far? Nope. Diane, questions? Lana, Sherry, Cheryl? Nope. Okay. Let's see here. And then.
I have one more thing I wanted
Yes.
to talk about,
Yes.
on the NLA report. Something I missed was, the city's looking to rebrand, switching, our name from association over to district. I'm not sure what the timeline is on that at this time, but we would then become, Old Farm District or Old Farm District Neighborhood. But we would not be Old Farm District Neighborhood Association anymore. And that's, I believe that's to help distinguish a neighborhood association, or what we currently are, from a homeowners association, which there is oftentimes some confusion there. So I believe that's the intent on it. I'll ask that question for in tomorrow's meeting as well, with respect to what's the timeline for that. If there is a rebranding need, that will be a separate rebranding budget provided by the city directly.
You know that? Hope that.
That's what they said that they would be providing. I don't think everything's locked in yet, but I'll find out what.
Do you know, I mean, we have our own branding that we've done. Obviously, we have to redo it. Yeah, with the name change. Is it your sense that they're gonna try and take that over and we run it through them, or would they provide us budget to go redo what we just did?
I don't know.
We have a few minutes, so we can continue, or we can have this conversation now.
Yeah.
What are the board's thoughts? I have no issue. I mean, we've been the Old Farm District since the very, very beginning, 2002. The neighborhood associations, originally this was, we were copied from Portland. I believe Portland has around 90. I know one of the big topics going forward is boundaries of whatever these districts are, and what that looks like for the city going forward. So I know the city sort of needs to get back to us, and then we do as well. I personally, if we were just the Old Farm District, we could take our new logo that we did last year and switch the wording around a little bit, and it would work absolutely fine.
No, I have a problem with, I mean, I don't have any problem with Old Farm District, except that, you know, it's really a geographical. It doesn't address the border, can't use the word association. So it's like, what do you do to replace association? And that's the only thing because we have, there's signs up, you're entering the Old Farm District. So to me, that's a geographical designation. The word association describes what we do. You take the word association away, and now it's almost like you need something else to define it. When you're talking about, there's a board and there's some leadership in the neighborhood.
Yeah, you've got a
What do
good
you
point.
call it?
I mean, association acts that districts don't act.
Yeah.
If people manage the district, I think that's a good point.
I don't have an answer for that in terms of what we can do there to make. Because what I mean, you're trying to get people to participate and to understand that we exist to help them
Mhm.
and to speak to their government for them if they would like. But I don't think dropping out neighborhood and association doesn't further the goal of making it easier for people to know we're here and can help.
I guess my only thoughts on that are, as I, look around the country, some places have parishes,
Oh, I love parish. Let's do a parish.
Not gonna get.
so there's all these, different designations, but like if I hear parish, I don't think I've ever heard of, I mean, parishes have like, counselors and commissioners and things as well. I don't know, just to put it out there, I mean, it's sort of like the history of wherever you're talking about in the country
Mhm.
sort of determines what's called. So if we are districts, I understand the idea of saying what we are in relation to the district. We'd
I
still
think
be the
some-
board.
I think we need feedback from Michaela and that side of things, since they're spurring this effort. Research was pretty clear about the confusion, but.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason, right? Is because I want to not be
Yeah.
like, there's confusion between HOA and NA.
Well,
right?
in some parts of town, the majority, the homeowners associations are so overwhelmingly a portion of the little section of town,
Mhm.
but they are tasked with the city communications and they don't have the legal responsibility necessarily of land use notifications. But for most people just to go, well, I have an HOA, they don't understand the purpose of why the city has these different districts or what, but
Couldn't that be solved with messaging? Really?
that's sort of what they're, I think, trying to do is remarket as part of their messaging. I don't know, Jen, what are your thoughts?
I have a lot.
Sam?
I mean, I don't know, it just seems like a big pain in the butt, to take this very established, and in my eyes, very established thing. And be like, okay, wait a minute, we need to rethink this. It just feels like it's gonna waste a lot of time. And I mean, to Brian's point, it definitely sets us as like, this is what we do, you know? I like that. I mean, I think it would, much easier thing would be to spend a lot more time with messaging in the community. And this community can be very difficult from time to time with understanding these things.
Fair enough.
I agree with that, honestly, because I don't, if we had a better solution for the nomenclature, I would be, you know, okay, we can make a change, but it seems like you've got 13 of these. And if everybody's struggling to figure out how to do their own messaging, why shouldn't this be city shepherding this? And it might be easier to shepherd with some education and communication around the differences between, that they found it out in their own surveys, that the confusion between HOA and NA is real. Seems like that
Yeah,
might be the place to attack instead of upsetting the apple cart 13 times and trying to figure it out.
don't the signs around the city, don't they say neighborhood association? Or is it
No.
just says district?
So, well, it depends on, some of them are actually districts and some of them are neighborhood associations. So it literally depends on the sign and all the signs are very old at this point. So some of them are faded. So I think some of it essentially is they're all gonna have to be replaced and, just so you know, I think they're around $750 a sign. So from a, citywide standpoint, we have what, 7 in our district.
A lot of potholes.
Mhm.
We have
So-
more potholes than we
Yeah.
have 7.
So,
Potholes, my carpet disappearing.
they are the purple signs, so they are a designation. And then I guess another thing would be, as these new neighborhoods are being developed, where should the signs be placed? Right now, the rules are set up that as a area decides to annex it, the city can decide whether or not they want to be a part of the adjacent neighborhood association or not, district, or if they want to create a new district. I think there's still a big question in the air of like Stevens Ranch and Stevens Tract. It would make perfect sense for them to be their own district.
Yeah, there's like, what, 3,000
Mhm.
lots?
Yeah, there's gonna be like that, a school, 3, different commercial areas, multiple tall apartment complexes,
Geographically distinct.
very distinct geographically, historically. The only thing is it's gonna take 10 years for it all to happen. So when does it start? And then how do you keep those people still informed as it's happening? So like the first person that buys in the area still needs to know what's going on in the city of Bend. But I think that's like one of the big questions. I mean, and it would make, like I said, perfect sense for the Stevens Ranch and Stevens Tract development to be its own new entity moving forward. The problem is, when does it start to become its own entity and what is the transition period? Just food for thought. I don't know.
I think that's really our concern at the moment. I mean,
We don't have to solve it tonight.
No, we don't have to solve tonight.
the only thing I was going to suggest is, to your point, you're right. I mean, if somebody's going to be the first person who lives there, and they should, maybe the city can think about just putting them under the wing of an adjacent, as in, shepherding them into maturity, at which point they take it off.
I mean, it sounds like the first thing that's gonna get built there is the new library. So we've wrapped up our fiscal year discussion. We've discussed the NLA. We have a general idea of 2023, how we want to move forward. Do we want to have any other conversations on that tonight, or should we just call it a?
Is there a tree code update? to
Is there a
share?
tree code? Yeah, so
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes and no. I'm on the tree code committee. I know that someone's paying attention to the code I proposed. Bob Campbell actually asked for a copy. I've been talking to Pauline Hardy. They're thinking about it, but I don't think a time for a first meeting has been set yet. I've not received any notice. I'm not even sure that they're finished picking committee members.
But are they looking to update the tree code like this fiscal year? Or this
Well,
next
I
fiscal
think
year
that
that's
the
coming up?
timeline is to have something by December.
So as you say that, there are a few things that the city has to do in the next 7 months. One of them is submit its plan to the state regarding climate-friendly communities. By December or January, the city of Bend has to basically tell the state of Oregon what their thoughts are going to be for the next 10 or 15 years moving forward. I know I'm assuming we're going to be part of the communications outreach on that. I think they're planning 3 or 4 different public meetings to gather input from the public as a whole. But I also think that they're going to be going to certain individual committees to have that conversation. So that is a huge topic for the city, for the residents of the city. Essentially, it's a transportation band or transportation-based urban planning zone going forward. So the concept is either have 1, have 2 or 3, or have 5 or 6 dispersed around town. So if we have 1, then that basically means the Bend Central District downtown area will be designed or the urban planning moving forward so that if somebody actually wanted to live there, there would be a grocery store and absolutely everything is schools, work environments, housing, more density so people could walk around and not necessarily have to get in a car if they didn't want to. And that is the cheapest because everything's centralized and there's already a lot of the infrastructure already there. It's like the buses and things like that. The flip side of it is a more dispersed pattern. Personally, I'm more leaning towards that. That essentially means something like the Elbow and Stevens Ranch and Juniper Ridge. The west side's already sort of getting its development with the tall buildings that have already been going in place, especially around Simpson or Colorado and that area. So that area could be its own as well as the one downtown. The disadvantage of that, and you'll hear about this going forward, is because everything's spread out, that means we then have to provide services to all of those areas, which essentially means public transit and other options, and make sure there's a grocery store in the northeast side of town. Northeast side of town currently doesn't have one. Southeast side of town currently doesn't have one. But as we move forward as a city, and I'm not talking 1 or 2 years, I'm talking 5, 10 or 15, 20 years, the decisions that are going to be made in the next year and a half are going to determine how that happens. And one advantage of doing dispersed essentially means we are not going to just have this big downtown area that everybody has to drive to and everything else is going to sort of still be the islands that we have. I know that most people on the southeast side of town would love to be able to have something to walk to. We're pretty stoked about what's happening with Reed South. So I guess the idea is I just want everybody to pay attention to what's going on. We're going to be marketing this. And it is a different concept. It's a state of Oregon land use plan that you literally can't look at another state and say it's going to look like this. And I just want everybody to know that there will be lots of public discussion about it, and people are going to be all over the place as far as their opinions. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means we need to gather those opinions and have solid conversations about it in the next 7 months.
I think that to your point, I reiterate what you said in the past, is that it seems like the city officials truly appreciate when we can provide the feedback from our association. If we've done the work, we've done a survey, if we've gathered feedback, they appreciate the fact that they're hearing from us as a representative from this, quadrant of town. So I think people, to your point about how big these decisions are in terms of the future of this community, that anything we can do to facilitate that with further surveys or some of these gatherings we're talking about or whatever, I think is a useful use of our time and space. And I think that people would like to be heard, and I think the city would appreciate hearing what people think. Because we are constantly commenting on how big decisions are made in a relative vacuum. That the voices that are heard in and around big topics are usually fairly selective and relatively few. So I think this is, to your point, this is a momentous time.
And I'm just wanting everybody to absolutely have it on their radar. The city staff has basically reached out to the MPO, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, as well as BDAB. And they're going to be reaching out to the Human Rights Equity Commission and all the other committees, because literally the discussions that are going to be occurring in the next 12 months are going to determine what the city of Bend is going to look like 20 years from now. I cannot stress how important this really is.
Exactly.
Because it's never happened before. There was no plan about what Bend was going to look like 25 years ago. It's just all been piecemeal. But we're at a point where everybody's like, no, we need to have a plan moving forward.
One thought parallel but different from that is if there are folks here or listening, we have this ongoing question on the board about how to allocate available funds when the vast majority of the funds that we have go to promoting our general meeting, which is obviously very important for everybody. And is there a way, or do people have opinions about how they would like to hear from us? We've talked about amping up the social media communications as a more affordable way to reach out to residents than posting and printing signs, which is crazy expensive. Just love to hear how they have feedback on how they would like to be reached out to. That would really help us inform what we have the monies to do and how best to make sure that our events are successful.
Yeah, we need to hear everyone's thoughts.
How should they reach out to us to let us know?
Yeah,
You can reach out to us on,
that would be a survey that I'd be all for doing early on next fiscal year, like in August. What is your preferred method of communication? Kind of
do we
thing.
have the option of text?
Are you gonna respond to them?
No, I mean, sending out, no. But I mean, sending out like informative, like a lot of the political people do, you enter your number and they send you a text. And you have to confirm it that you want to receive communication that way. Do we have any availability to do that on MailChimp?
I can look I don't know,
Or
I'd have to
not
look into it.
MailChimp, Whatever technology situation is out there for that.
On phone chip.
If it's creative, it would be largely about people being willing to give a couple of.
I mean, if it was just about like upcoming meetings or important like public comment.
There's just
input,
hesitation. If we could get.
Well, we have-
anything we could do that was in a large number would be great.
Stop talking quietly. It's a public meeting. So we have what, 900 plus emails right now, right?
We're over 1,000 now.
Over
About
1,000.
1,100.
So,
We have 670 following on Facebook.
okay, and they released a chart of how we're getting our budget allocation. I didn't quite understand it, but I think we're around 5,300 doors. The tax lots was a different number, but literally every 6 months, that number is going to change. Especially Ferguson, we're going to be looking at another 500 units, 600 units going there in the next year and a half, 2 years. And then over by Silver Rail School, that's pretty much going to be built out probably in the next year and a half. So you're looking at another few hundred. We just need to make sure those people know and understand that we exist. Constant challenge.
I wish we could do like a door hanger thing portably.
I don't know. Maybe if we knew somebody in marketing.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a-
Wasteful. I'm not gonna lie, if I get political brochures, they're going straight into a receptacle.
What if it said, do not throw this out?
That. And well, as long as it was, what irritates me is those are usually like plastic coated. And that's, to me, that's super wasteful. And it comes in a plastic bag. And people are not, we're not for that anymore. So like if it was a recyclable situation, then that's the manpower of dropping it at everybody's doorstep.
Yep. That's what I was thinking about, the private partnership, whether you got the Boy Scouts, the league teams, schools, somebody that can go cover one neighbor, especially these new neighborhoods, don't have any
I
idea.
say walk up to someone's door.
Yeah, word. We were just talking about that. Word.
Yeah. You volunteered, right? Russ,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, stand up.
Said you knew people.
Yeah, right, well, okay.
So.
Take under advisement.
Does anyone else have anything, any board members have anything else to add to the meeting? Anyone online? Diane, do you have anything you'd like to add? Still on mute.
Yeah, still muted.
One thing we didn't talk about was.
I have a question. Whenever, are you finished with her?
You're making better progress. Once we can hear from Diane, we'll let you speak. What's up?
What's the story on the highway?
There,
27.
sorry. I just wanted to say I agreed with, I couldn't get my microphone to work. I agree with not hanging things on people's doors. I hate that. You guys are doing a great job.
Are they gonna put a turnout lane in or on 27 of the distance from Reed Market all the way down? Has anybody heard
27th, you mean from Reed Market to like,
to Ferguson?
yes. So there's going to be what's the name of that neighborhood? There's a W name for the street, Ross.
Wilderness?
Wilderness Way?
Yeah.
Wilderness Way is gonna have a roundabout. There'll be a roundabout at Ferguson. And there's gonna be another roundabout farther south of that that's still on 27th Street before you actually go around the corner. All of those are part of the long-range transportation system plan. When they get done,
Is it the southern one? That's a high desert, right? So
High
you can have-
Desert Middle School,
No, that's why they're putting that there so you can access safely the middle school without the craziness that goes on
I
there.
think there's gonna be one in between that.
Well, Ferguson and High
It's
Desert are pretty
Ferguson.
close.
So, yeah, well, there's gonna be one, definitely one at Ferguson.
Yeah.
And the way the southeast area plan is, I don't know, I think there's gonna be another one before you get to High Desert. I may be
Like
wrong.
off Rickard.
Oh, is that road that's coming all the way?
Yeah, maybe
It's
they.
gonna come all the way through.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
essentially,
yeah.
basically be a meandering road that connects up to Alphaville Park in Easton.
Yeah,
Easton is gonna
Easton,
be the start of
yeah.
this, so
Mm.
the answer is yes. They're not part of the transportation go bond. They are gonna be activated and constructed based upon development of Stevens Ranch, as well as the southeast area. So off of Ferguson Road, there are 2 or 3 major developments going in that are high density. That's gonna activate the roundabout construction at Ferguson and 27th Street. And the one on Wilderness Way is where essentially the new library is gonna go. So you have a proposed 100,000 square feet, might be smaller on 8 acres, essentially right there across from Wilderness Way. Wilderness Way is going to meander through the entire area. Ross, do you have the ability to pull up? Where is that? Oh, okay. I'm not used to looking at it from that orientation. So yeah, you can see where Wilderness Way is. It's basically going east-west, which is turned 90 degrees at this point.
Share my screen real quick for those who are still watching.
Yeah, so that is oriented 90 degrees off.
Could you orient us with some of the street names there?
So this is Ferguson here, and this is Reed Market.
And then so Reed Market's gonna go all the way through the old path that is the offset of Stevens. That's basically going away. Can you circle where Wilderness is to the right?
James,
This
did
is
you
Wilderness,
say,
yeah?
Reed Market's gonna go all the way through?
Yeah, if you haven't seen the new
Yeah.
construction, so Reed Market's gonna basically gonna go straight and it's realigning what was Stevens Ranch or Stevens Road that goes like this. It's now gonna be a perfectly straight line.
The reason why I ask is because they poured, concrete there, sidewalks, all the way across 27th from, the diagonal street there over to where the intersection is, Market and 7th. So,
You mean running parallel with 27th?
yeah, curbside,
Yeah,
that's all sidewalk.
so all of 27th Street on the east side of 27th Street is going to be completely modernized with sidewalks, bike paths. One of the things that they're putting in is, I believe, a separated bike path that is going to connect up with the path at Ferguson that goes to the middle school.
Well, the reason why I ask is because if it's gonna run all the way through, then why would they have put in sidewalk there at the intersection?
So that I'd have to look at where the master plan is currently for Stevens Ranch.
They poured it across here, you're talking about, right? Stevens Road?
No, down at, Reed Market.
At Reed Market, they poured it all the way across with a curb?
That's all sidewalk right there.
I don't think that.
I'd have to, then it's probably temporary.
Because originally, Reed Market was, well, they were gonna put in a roundabout there, but then they decided not to. So then they're gonna run that through. And, it sounded like they had dropped that idea that they weren't gonna run it through, that they're gonna divert traffic over to the diagonal street.
Yeah, that might be temporary just for construction purposes. But there is no question the long-term transportation system plan it is absolutely gonna go straight through.
Makes sense.
But I mean, that little weird quadrilateral.
You mean the isosceles triangle?
No, I'm talking about, you are literally looking at 10 to 12 years of development to have it all happen. And directly to the east of it, on the other side, which is gray, they're in the process of finalizing that. And there's gonna be like a whole new bus route that goes through the entire both sections and then comes down Wilderness. And that is all available. That has all come up literally in public discussions in the last month. So it is happening. At this point, it's just a question of when. And if we go on if you have questions, I can help you find it on the MPO's website. It's all publicly available. It's nothing secret at this point.
So this
Where
is
is,
Stevens Ranch and Stevens Tract is right here, right?
Correct. And Stevens Tract is an anomaly for Bend because it's part of a state legislative deal, which is why it's going to exist. So it's actually going to be developed under completely different guidelines than the rest of Bend.
Did you have a question? Just, you spoke of Reed South earlier. Where is that?
Right down the street. You had that pulled up.
Reed Market and.
Reed Market to 27th Street, the little commercial development they're putting on the southwest corner.
That's Reed South?
That's called Reed South.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So there's gonna be, we had some of the owners, Cascade Lakes Brewing is gonna have a 2-story facility there. It's gonna be a gas station, dentist office. I think there's a Greek restaurant going in. There's
Yeah.
about 7 or 8 other things. That should be opening very soon. They ran
So it
into
pretty
some
much filled
construction
up?
problems. Huh?
Did it pretty much fill up?
Yeah, I think there's still some places available.
Oh, there's still a lot available.
Yeah, a lot of the space
Even
here.
the drive-throughs.
Yeah, here we go.
They were gonna, Lucy's Taco Shop was gonna be in the drive-through, but they decided not to do it. So
Oh,
Is that a done deal now? No more Lucy's?
That's too bad.
Well, I guess you never know until the check changes hands, so.
Well, apparently they didn't get modifications they wanted.
But Cascade Lakes is definitely happening.
Yep.
One last question. When's the sewer coming? The Wilderness Way.
The Wilderness Way. So, I am speaking off of general knowledge because I've been following this for years. It is going to be triggered most likely by the development on Ferguson by, what's the name of the street with the name?
Magnolia?
Magnolia. So there's a large development that's going in on Magnolia and Ferguson. And that has to connect to the sewer. Question is that gonna trigger the Wilderness Way neighborhood? And if they do, will it go straight through Wilderness Way or are they gonna route it down? There's a really big elevation change as you're on 27th Street and then you go down to where Ferguson.
Yeah, there's a couple of you.
Yeah, so there's some,
Is actually gonna flow west and then go north through
yeah, but when he's talking about the neighborhood, yeah, so that might trigger.
something,
But is the sewer coming from Reed Market and,
It would be coming, so
27?
there's.
Or across the street from, they've got the.
So that is, it's a what development starts first that triggers it.
As long as it goes downhill.
As long as, it could have.
it's gonna be really deep.
So, yeah, so it's which development gets to it and causes the trigger first.
Okay,
So.
it could be a
They have
while.
both figured out. But you don't know until I mean, there
Yeah,
is city planning, but it is all based upon private investment for all of this.
Yeah.
okay.
And there's no point in putting in the sewer if nobody hooks up to it. So.
If it's in 300 feet, you're gonna hook up. That's the city said.
But they're not- People on those streets.
How about we call it for the public session of the meeting, live streaming? We're gonna say goodbye, Diane. Thank you. Showing up. Lana, thank you.